Okay, welcome back. So we're going to go into detail on the first product that I'm going to review as part of the S Thunder series. We've got the S Thunder Step and Release Airsoft Mine. So the neat thing about this mine is, let me just open up the top box here, is it doesn't go off until after you step on it, and then when you release, that's when it goes off. A lot of the other mines, when you step on them, they'll activate. This one doesn't activate until you release, so you have to step on it. As soon as you take your foot off or whatever, it's going to go off. So what do you have in the box here? Well, you've got the actual landmine itself, assembly here. You've got some directions from S Thunder on how to use this. We're going to go into detail on this. And also in this box, you've got a carrying case for the landmine. So S Thunder is thinking ahead, and they know you're going to need some way to store this, and they give you a nice little carrying bag. So you can go ahead and put that in there and throw that in your gear bag before you go out to play. So let's go ahead and come to the workbench, and we'll do a close-up overview of operation of this and detailed directions on how this is assembled and how you might service it. All right, thanks. Okay. Well, we've got our S Thunder landmine here. This is the step and release model. And as you can see on this landmine, you have some safety pins, one on each side. Okay. And then you've got this top portion here. And on the side here, on the bottom, below one of the safety pins, you have a little cover that has in it a dial for setting the spring in the bottom of the landmine. Okay, so I'm just going to leave the cover off, set this back down here, and let's just go over basic disassembly of this first. So you could take out these safety pins. This is not charged. I do have safety glasses on just in case. As you can see, it's not charged. I already made sure of that before I started this. So you can unthread the top, and inside, after you get this new in the box, you're going to have this little key. This key is very important. You don't want to lose this. It's got dual function. The key is used to actually set the mechanism for triggering the mine through this bottom plug that we've exposed here. So you actually take the key and you put in the bottom of this key fits in over this metal piece, and you turn that and set it, and it will lock. Okay, so that is used when you set it this, and then the other purpose of this key are these two prongs on the top. You take these two prongs and you put them in to the top of the grenade, and you set those in there, and there's a lock. It's actually labeled in there. It says lock and it says unlock, so it tells you right in there. So we can turn this to lock it or to unlock it. Okay, so we've got it unlocked now, and the whole unit's going to come out. You can see there's some water in there because I've been setting it off, so that's not going to be there when you first disassemble this. And you've got this top piece where it basically has the reservoir for where you put the powder and where you put the water or whatever you're going to have trigger. So take that off, and you can see this is the essential CO2 slash natural gas, if you want to use it, unit that is in the core of all of their landmines that operate in this manner. Some landmines use 12 grams. You'll see those in the videos. But these are charging units, and these are the same chargers basically that are used in their shells, for their grenades that you can launch, as well as the shells that launch the BBs and other items that you can pack into them and put the plugs on the end. So this guy right here is pretty much the guts of the beast here. If you look in the bottom, you can see the mechanism I told you about. And that's the spring mechanism, so that when you step down, you push down on that, you release, and then there's inside here, there's a metal piece that flips around, and when it flips around, it hits on the actual button that releases the charge, and this is the button right here that releases the charge. Okay, so this is where the gas goes in to the unit itself, and this is where you're going to activate it. And there's different mechanisms for activating that. If it's in the grenade launcher, then there's a pin in the grenade launcher that hits this and activates, releases the gas. If it's in the mine, here it's in upside down in here, and there in the bottom there, that foot that's on that spring is going to flip around when you release it, and it's going to smack into that button. So that's what actually triggers it. Okay? Now, just to note, you want to have ear protection as well. If you're going to be working with these in an enclosed space, especially, because this unit is loud when the gas releases. It's very loud. So that's the housing itself, and you can see there in the bottom, that's how that's triggered. So I'm going to set the housing aside, and the top pieces here, and we don't need the key right now. So we'll put the key in the tray holder, and we'll put the pins themselves in a little holder. I like to keep a little iPhone case to keep little parts in. Okay, so now we've got this piece here, and this is the actual unit that you charge with CO2. Okay, and when you hit this button, it releases the CO2, and that button's triggered different ways depending on what device it's in. So the landmines can be a little trickier, but all of these units basically are threaded into a plastic housing. So sometimes it's an actual shell that comes out, and you'll see that in the other videos if you watch them, that holds foam grenades. In this case, we just have basically a reservoir piece, a plastic piece, that we can unscrew. Okay? And access then the actual internals of the landmine and service them. There is a, see if you can see that there, it's black so it's going to be hard. There is actually an O-ring right here. I lube these threads with some Gorilla Air Lube. It's a clear lube, and because I think they'd been in a box for a while, so I did lube those up. So there's the reservoir piece right there. And now that we're in and have that piece unthreaded, we can push on that button and pop out the internal pieces. You want to be very careful when you do this, because there's actually 4 ball bearings in the plug that sits inside that reservoir. There's holes, and let me just get the bearings into a tray here. 1, 2, 3, and the 4th one's still in here. You need a pick real quick. Screwdriver. Pop that out. Okay. See the little tiny ball bearings. Okay, you don't want to lose those. So be careful when you if you have to take this apart. I mean, you're not going to have to take this apart a lot. I just wanted to show you, so you can see the pieces, because I know you guys like to see details of how everything works. So inside of this piece here where the button is, so okay, we've got the housing itself. You see on the bottom here, that's where you fill up the charge. We pushed out the internals here, and so now you've got another reservoir where basically the CO2 is stored. You can see, it's bored out there with different holes. So we'll set that casing aside right here, and inside of that you have this plug, and you have the button itself. You have a spring that fits inside of that. So there's the spring, and it fits inside of the button, okay? And then that slides inside of the actual plug there, okay? So when that button's pushed, you're going to break the seal, release the gas, essentially is how that works, okay? So tricky part, one thing I want to mention when you're dealing with this, a little tip for you, how do I get, this all back together? If my bearings fall out, the holes are actually such that the bearings aren't just going to sit there, at least on this one. I haven't serviced them all yet. On this one, it's going to fall out, okay? So, it fell through the other hole. What are the odds of that? It's actually pretty good. So they're going to fall out. And if you have a problem with them falling out, I've already done this with this one once before. You can just take some Marmalade or some Gorilla Air Lube, whatever you want. You basically just put a swab of lube right in the holes. And then put the bearings in one at a time. And the lube will hold them right in that open hole. Okay? So these little tiny holes where the bearings go, just put a dab of lube in there to basically fill that hole, and then put your bearings in. And they'll sit right there, okay? They won't fall out. You can wipe the excess off after you get them set in there, okay? So I'm just going to do that for all of these. Now I want to show you this because I can imagine if you're using powder, other materials, it could get sticky. Crap could get down in here through these O-rings when they pop up. I mean, there's two O-rings. I'll show you here. Those two O-rings. So, I mean, you might not have a problem, but I think every now and again, if you're using these a lot, you're gonna have to check and service these. So, I might be going overboard here with the lube a little bit, but it's just gonna blow it out anyways. I don't want it to fall apart while I'm doing this. So once I've got that together, I'll go ahead and put the spring back into the correct end. You got the small button. That's the side that you press on, you saw before, and then you got this open face end, and that's where the spring goes. Okay. And then go ahead and put these two together. Okay. And then take there's a few ways you could do this. You can go right into the shell here, the reservoir, stand this up, okay? So I've got that standing right there in that reservoir. All my ball bearings are in there, and now I could go ahead and line up that button. This is tricky. I mean, I have to take a few attempts at this. Okay. And I'm going to flip it upside down. I'm going to thread it back together again. Okay. So you just lube. There's 3 O-rings there to lube. I'd already lubed these before. There's plenty of lube in here that's going to blow out. I'll probably clean that out later. I just wanted to show this to you guys how this works. Okay. So go ahead and tighten that back in. You'll see down here I've got that plug back in the reservoir. You want to make sure you have this facing the right direction. You can actually get this the wrong way if you're not paying attention. And you can see the button here is operating. Sometimes this button might get stuck, and they tell you in the directions. You just push it with a pencil. If it does get stuck, I'll see if I can make it stick like that or something. Just push it with a pencil real quick. If it's in the device. So maybe it fired and then it's not lining up with the hole for some reason. So you can just wiggle it around, make sure it goes back to where you'd like it to be. Okay? So that's the unit itself and how you can service it. Now, once you're done servicing it, you're going to want to test it. Like I said, put on some ear protection because this is going to be loud. I got a little extra lube on my fingers, so I'm just going to go ahead and clean that out here. Don't want that extra lube on there. especially near where I'm going to fill it. All right, so I'm wiping my hands off. And to fill these, you have to get one of these adapters that go on a 12-gram bottle adapter. So you put the 12-gram in here, and you screw on the back end, and then it will pierce the 12-gram into this cartridge, and then you basically have a unit that you can use to charge into the little hole on the gold stem here. Okay? So you go ahead and line that up, and once you have it lined up, it's kind of a quick press. This is, I think, one of the most challenging parts is knowing how long to charge these for. So you press that down, charge that, and as soon as you charge that, I've got this apart now, okay? This button here, you're not going to be able to push it anymore. It's got to charge it, okay? It's not going to be an easy press like it was before. Now you want to be very careful. That's charged now. Make sure you have your ear protection on. But we just want to make sure that that's sealed. S Thunder designed these so that they actually will hold their charge at an extended period of time. They're not just airsoft. They're not just paintball. They provide training equipment for the military as well. So they have a multiple kind of market approach with their company. And so these have really good design. So that's charged now. I got that face down there. And what we can do to set it off is just face it away from me, obviously. Make sure you have your ear protection on, obviously. Make sure you have your eye protection on, obviously. Okay? And press that button. You're going to have to press it hard. There you go. Boom. Okay? So I think you heard that through my mic, no problems. And we know that this unit is working. Okay? So, gas just explodes out of there when you press that button. And if there's powder in there, it goes everywhere. If there's water there, it goes everywhere. And that is how these little units work. And like I said before, they're in the landmines, certain landmines that are chargeable. And I'll go over all those with you that I have here, as well as the actual shells for the grenade launchers. So hopefully that really helps you understand how these work. So let's just put this back together again. So we have the unit reassembled. We've tested it. We know it's holding air. We know it works. We made sure we were safe with our ear protection, eye protection, pointing it away from ourselves, etc. So if you're nervous about that at all, then don't do it. Don't even try it. Have somebody else service it for you or send it in or whatever you got to do. So we've got the housing here again. And so we just take this charge, and we're going to have, let me just put all the pieces out here. We've got the housing of the landmine itself. We've got the top of the reservoir, which will lock this down. And then we've got the actual guard for the landmine, which goes on the very top and channels the material out in that kind of pattern. So, okay. We also have the safety pins, which are critical to preventing the landmine from being triggered. It won't let the mechanism go down once these are underneath. And we've got our key here that we're going to need to lock this together. So we're going to go ahead and slide this, line it up with the bottom holes, slide that in there. Okay. And you might have to, move it around a little bit. It's not necessarily a easy thing just to put right in there. Okay, so you line that up with the bottom hole so you can see that. Go ahead and push in that locking piece at the top. Okay, and put your key into the two holes on either side here. Push down, and you can lock that in. Okay. So unlock, right? It's flush at the top, lock down in. When it's locked down in, turn it upside down, nothing comes out, okay? When it's unlocked, it will fall out, okay? So that's what that lock on the top is for. It has nothing to do with making sure that it goes off or anything like that. I've seen some other video reviews which suggested that that has to do with the trigger mechanism. The trigger mechanism is actually down here on the bottom, and it sets a spring with a little foot on it. And when you push down, step on this, when the safety pins are not in, it will set that spring, and then when you step off, it will flip around in a circle, hitting the button that we saw on the internals, which is in the casing now. It will flip over, hit that, and trigger the mine. Okay? We're going to put the top cover back on, thread that on. Okay? And then you can see it can be triggered right now. I can step on this, you know. There's no charge in it, but we don't want that to happen. So we're going to put in our safety pins, one on each side. So there's one. Flip that around. And get our other safety pin out of our tray here. And put that in. Okay? So we've got two safety pins in. I cannot push down on this now. No one can step on this and trigger it. Okay? Okay, so let's just go over how this basic operation of this unit. I've got my eye protection on, my ear protection on. Got a 12 gram CO2 cartridge in my fill adapter. I've got the key for setting the trigger mechanism on the landmine, and I've got my safety pins in with the unit facing away from me, my eye and ear protection on. Okay, so first thing you want to do is actually set the trigger mechanism, okay, because of the way it operates inside of there. Then you want to go ahead and put a charge in. So put a charge in there. And so at this point, we're ready to rock. We've got our pins still in because we haven't buried this where we want it yet. You want to pull those pins out until you want it to be live. So maybe use this booby trap, you know, set something on top of it or something. I don't know. Burying it most likely with it partially exposed so that the water and powder can come out here. So once you get it all set to where you want it, you go ahead and pull these safety pins out, and it's live. Again, I've got ear and eye protection on. This unit's facing away from me. There's nobody behind the camera or anything like that, so we're safe. And we're just going to blow out the CO2 charge itself and make a big bang. So somebody would step on this, and now it's ready to go. So wait for it, wait for it. Boom! That's it. They're dead. Okay, so that's the basic operation. You want to go ahead and put the safety pins back in. And don't lose the key itself. Okay, make sure you put that in a safe place because you're going to need that. I mean, you could use pliers or something to get down on that. But make sure you do turn this first, because if you don't, it's not going to be set right so that it will hit the button. But again, this is the step and release model. It doesn't actually trigger the device until you take your foot or the weight off of the device. So I could see this being used tactically for setting booby traps. Maybe you got an object in a scenario that folks have to go and get. It's a heavy object. You could actually set one of these underneath it. Just set it with a bang, you know, charge. Don't put anything in it. They'll fly in their face. And then they pull it up and boom, goes off. Scares the crap out of them. They're out. However you want to do it. I mean, the thing to keep in mind is just to think safe when you're using it. So you can see how far it will actually shoot a charge that when it's primed with something actually inside the reservoir. And again, this is water or powder is what it's labeled as. Okay?